Hello everyone. My name is Neill Cameron. I am a comics writer and illustrator based in the UK. I mostly work for a weekly children's comic called The Phoenix, which unbelievably I don't have one lying within easy reach. Thank you. Amazing. We didn't get this week's yet. I'm really mad. Um, and I do stuff for there that gets collected together as graphic novels. I've had 2 books come out this year. Mega Robo Bros Final Form, which is the final volume of an 8-book series, and Donut Squad, which just came out yesterday, which is the first volume of Who Knows. They are quite different in tone. That's what I will say about those.
Excellent. Yeah, so I think going way back, I first encountered your work in the Phoenix way back. So am I right in thinking Mega Robo Bros pretty much started at the same time as the Phoenix?
No, not really. It messes my perception of how long the Phoenix had existed, because I sort of reset when we were a few years in. When the Phoenix first started, I was drawing a comic called The Pirates of Pangaea that was written with my friend Daniel Hartwell, which is about pirates and dinosaurs and having adventures and stuff. And I also did the How to Make Awesome Comics strip in there. And I did both of those for a few years. And then after a certain point, I was like, I had an urge to change a bit, and I wanted to do some different things. And so we started Mega Robo maybe like 4 years into it. But I mean, that's 10 years ago already. So things has been around like a weirdly long time at this point.
Yeah, I think because my perception of time is completely warped, because the Phoenix basically started when my son was born.
Right.
And then I spent the next kind of 5 years trying to force it upon him, being like, this comic's really good, but I need an excuse to read it. And he was like a bit too young.
Nerdy comics.
My wife kept going, just wait a little bit. And then I think we picked up a random issue at some point, and it had a random episode of Mega Robo Bros in it. And me and my son were like, what is this? This is interesting. There's big robots punching each other. This is exciting. And then we didn't properly start reading the Phoenix for another couple of years, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
At which point we then discovered Mega Robo Bros properly, and also realized that there was more to it than just punchy robots. I think it's that thing where that's what gets you in the door, and then you discover there's actually all sorts of other stuff going on.
Absolutely. The punchy robots, there are a lot of punchy robots, but hopefully there's, once they've got you in the door, you discover there's some other stuff going on inside the door. I'm not sure what this metaphor is. Yeah, I'm not sure what building this door is.
Like, you're standing slightly creepy now, isn't it?
Yeah. So how has he sort of come to the end of his Phoenix reading years now?
So he's 12 now, so he's still in it. And yeah, it's that kind of thing. It's that weird age where you start to regard toys in a different way. You're kind of moving away from toy thing. You're looking at slightly older reading and that kind of stuff. But the Phoenix kind of sits on the cusp of a lot of that. So there's probably still some time in there.
We've got a little while left. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I need to be careful that it's not just me who wants to keep reading the Phoenix and like forcing him to do it. And he's just like being like, right, Dad.
My son still reads it, well, and indeed now writes for it, because I get it every week, and so he never had to sort of come to that, I think I'm maybe too old for this now, which is a natural point for any reader, and there's nothing. Yeah. Obviously, it's natural; it's part of the life cycle. There's nothing wrong with that. But he got a kind of cheat code to he could just keep reading it anyway, which secretly, of course, delights me.
Yeah, the thing about the Phoenix, which like anyone reading it who isn't familiar with it, and I suppose if there's US-based people watching, like it's pretty much UK focused, is that right?
Yes, there is. I keep hearing talk of a sort of US edition being launched, but I don't have any concrete information about that, and I probably shouldn't even be saying that. So,
pretend you didn't say that.
Yeah, let's pretend I didn't say that.
Okay, moving on. But yeah, the thing that's great about the Phoenix, particularly for any parents watching, is that there's no like plastic thing on the front, and it's just like front to back original comics, not really any kind of licensing tie-in stuff, which some of that is fun as well, but it's just all original comics work.
It's not trying to sell you anything but the stories themselves, stories and jokes. That's all it's trying to. It exists in and of itself. Nothing against tie-in comics. You and I both have very strong feelings, I think, about comics that were designed primarily to sell you toy robots that turn into cars, and that there is greatness to be found there. But the Phoenix, it's the budget gets to go into artists and writers, not into creating a plastic toy to be sellotaped to the front, and so from my point of view as an artist and writer, that's better.
Yes, and I think as a parent, it's you just know that everything in it is going to be high quality and interesting and spark their imaginations and all that kind of stuff. What I wanted, because I obviously write serial fiction and pick a new chapter up every week, and I always think the closest analogies to the way I publish is comics and maybe TV a bit, because you don't really get it with prose fiction. You just got the novel, and that's kind of it these days. Whereas comic writers are used to writing and publishing before the whole thing's finished.
True. And also I think comics writers are, a lot of TV will be sort of fairly limited sort of length runs, whereas a weekly comic can run for years and years. It's more the sort of scale of what you've been doing, I suppose. It's not just 8 episodes and then you get to have a couple of years off and work on the next batch. It's a grind.
Yes, yeah. Well, that was what I always wanted to ask about, because Mega Robo Bros was this kind of 10-year project, as I understand it, and it went out in weekly form in the Phoenix, and now it's collected into books, which you can get, which is much more convenient. And the adaptation into the book is quite clever in itself as well. But I'm kind of nearing the end of my current serial, which I've been doing for 3 years, and I'm already starting to feel a bit weird about the idea that I won't be doing it at some point in the near future. So I suppose what I'm asking is, what was your brain like when you didn't have Mega Robo Bros to write anymore?
Well, it was, what worked out quite nicely, I suppose, is, I felt the end coming, it's coming, you see it coming down the road, and I suppose the difference to writing prose is I have to go through the end 10 times. I have to sort of write my outline for the final sort of chapter, and then I have to actually get into roughing out the strips, sort of writing the beat by beat story for the final chapter. Then I have to actually draw it, I have to pencil it, I have to ink it, then I have to go through and color it, and I have to do a lettering pass. So sort of you've gone through the ending so many times by the time it comes out that you just sort of get to really have multiple opportunities to emotionally destroy yourself with the enormity of sort of saying goodbye to these characters, and to this, to living in this world. I'm sure you feel this, you have spent a long time living in this world. This world incredibly well. It's going away. That's quite a weird feeling, right? And myself, how I have dealt with that is by immediately just switching gear into doing the complete polar opposite, I suppose, and drawing very silly gag strips about donuts. Which I think sort of came about as a sort of pressure valve release from the pressure of, because finishing a story is a lot of pressure, right? Especially if it's a long one, especially if something you've been thinking about for a long time. It's characters you care about. This world means a lot to you. Again, this may be ringing bells for you. It's and sort of the pressure to stick the landing and sort of do it justice, and particularly because if you have been doing it in this kind of serial form, where it has been, people have been reading it as you go along. You don't have the chance to sculpt the ending and then go back and rewrite chapter 1. People have been experiencing this story with you along the way, and some of them are really quite invested in this story, and these characters mean a lot to them. And so you're like, oh, I really better not mess this up, because that would be really bad. And so that pressure,
and in your case,
just broke my brain. Broke my brain, and donuts came out. Don't know what to say. Yeah. Sorry, what would you say?
I was going to say, in your case, most of those readers were children as well.
Yes, added emotional pressure. Yeah. Okay. What's going to happen, Mr. Neill? Will Alex and Freddie be okay? There was some tears along the way in that last year of publication, I think.
Yeah, there was some anxiety in this house, I have to say. But yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, at risk of sounding slightly mad, I find when I finish a major project that I've been working on for ages, particularly like the setting and the locations, I feel like they sometimes like lodge in my brain in the same place that somewhere I went on holiday does. So as time goes past, it feels like it sits in the same memory bit of my brain. And then occasionally I'm like, oh, I've not been there for ages. And I remember it's actually a completely fictional place anyway.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I'm like, oh, I missed London the future. Like, I had some really good times in London the future.
Yeah,
I should go back there sometime. Yeah,
yeah,
it is a
go back
similar
on.
similar part of the brain, like you say, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
Um,
exactly.
and do you, as you are coming to the end, do you, people have asked me quite a lot since I sort of finished it, because people are not used, I think, to stories finishing. Certainly, like serial fiction in the world of comics, it turns out the desire to actually just finish a story and end it is quite a controversial choice for some readers. Particularly some young readers who just want more of the thing they like.
Yeah.
So I've been getting asked quite a lot. Are you not going to do any more? Would you go back to that world? Have you? Will Triverse end in a way that is a? Are you leaving any doors open for yourself in case you want to go have a little holiday there again?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nature of it, there's like infinite corners that I could go and poke at if I wanted to. But I think this particular story with these characters, that will definitely be done.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, like you say, like having an ending is so important. Like, because having that ending, if you mess it up, it will ruin everything that's come before. but if you get it right,
No pressure. Yeah,
exactly. If you get it right, though, it will kind of elevate everything that's come before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The ending is the point of the story in a way to it. It's like what you're ultimately trying to say. Like the ending, I've said the ending of Mega Oberos is the story of Mega Oberos. It's what, it is one of the first things that popped into my head about the whole thing was certain key points about the ending, not the whole entire thing. Wasn't fully formed, but like the emotional beats of the ending, I suppose, are what I was aiming towards the whole time. And so then just like, and now they're back and now they're going to fight some other guys. It's sort of...
Yeah, but it's even more dangerous this time. Yeah, it's like diminishing returns, isn't it? But it's interesting what you were saying about having that ending in mind, because I think, particularly with serial stuff where it's already been published before you finished it, you have to know what that kind of thematic point is, because that's actually what will pull you all the way along to hitting the target.
Exactly, because you don't have the chance to go back and do another draft on, I mean, certainly with a print comic, those comics exist. They're out in the world. I can't go around and sort of lean over people's shoulders and say, sorry, I just changed. I need to set something up for the finale. Can we recall all those issues? You do have a slight chance to do a sort of second pass when the books come out, but it's sort of, you don't want to really change anything because that seems unfair, to the readers who have been following it in the comic, and so, I think it really helps to have that sense of just thematically, emotionally, what you're heading towards, because that'll sort of keep you on the right tracks as you go, and don't have the option to go back and change things as you go along. Yeah.
Yeah. So you talking about how Donut Squad, which is your kind of main thing now, that's just come out in book form, which I saw down in London at Gosh Comics, and it's a glorious thing.
Cool. I mean, gosh, hey.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had it on the shelves before it was officially out. So
we'll allow it in this case.
Exactly. But yeah, so this started off. I don't know if people can see this. So this is like a strip comic, basically, isn't it? It's like 4-panel little mini sketch stories.
Yeah, little gag strips.
For anyone that kind of grew up in the 90s, it makes me think of like the Fast Show if all the characters were donuts.
That's great. That's a pull quote right there.
Yeah,
for people who grew up in the 90s specifically.
Yeah, everyone else would be very confused by that. But
it's just little sketches. Sort of the characters come on and do their catchphrase, do their funny bit, and then it's on to the next thing. It's very it is quite fast, Joe. Yeah.
But I think what's amused me is that you're kind of saying how that was almost like a palate cleanser, and it was like a way to get away from the epic scope of Mega Robo Bros, and you could just do these like little mini short stories.
Yeah.
But you've also it then ended up being this epic war movie thing between bagels and donuts, and you took over the entire magazine, and it's become this much bigger thing. Children are now obsessed with this stuff.
I don't know if you've been following the I don't know if you've been following the recent issues, but we've started doing like our first sort of ongoing serial within the sort of Donut Squad spread that is explicitly like a serial. It's like, and it's a dystopian future sci-fi. No spoilers, but it might get a bit time travel-y, and it has become the most insanely sprawling and complicated, demented thing I've ever done. So I have a problem. I don't know what to say. Narrative is a virus. It just sort of, you intend things for these little self-contained things, and then you just can't help sort of, oh, it'd be fun if we took that and did this, and then you just start building these elaborate schemes out of it all.
Yeah. Was that part of the pitch when you pitched it to the Phoenix? Did you have this in mind that it would grow?
No, not at all. No. That's the joy of it. The whole thing's been sort of a complete happy accident, it was literally like I was working on Mega ROBO Bros, and I just had this idea for little funny donut dudes saying funny things, and it was quite weird. And so I drew like 10 or so, and I sent them to my editor, Joe Brady at the Phoenix, but not with like I wasn't even pitching it really. I was just like, I don't know if this is remotely like suitable for the Phoenix, honestly, but I think they're pretty funny. And I think you will find them pretty funny because I, sort of know Joe's sense of humor by this point. And he did. And he has a marvelously sort of open attitude to what is appropriate and suitable for our readership, you know what I mean? And so we started doing it in the comic, and then every bit of sort of every time it's gotten bigger, and the whole thing with the bagels just came from just sort of yes-anding stuff with Joe, basically. Like that it was a complete accident. I don't want to ramble on, but there's a very specific sort of way that all happened accidentally. Because an original punchline got sort of rejected, and I was like, I just put some bagels in at the end of the panel, and then he was like, well, what's going on with these bagels then? And I was like, all right, well, then I'm going to draw a whole other comic about what's going on with these bagels. And it has all spiraled from there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I like about writing in a serial format and sort of committing to the publishing of something, because quite often the really fun, exciting ideas are the ones that come along like mid-process. And if you'd sat at home planning this, you'd never have got to that point.
No, absolutely. It's the complete opposite way of working to something like Mega ROBO Bros, I suppose, where I sort of had that sense of an ending and the emotional points I was aiming for, and sort of the whole architecture of the story sort of filled in to get us from the beginning to the end. This is just make up nonsense as you go along and see what sort of emerges along the way. So that there's no plan, there's no end point, I don't have a fixed idea of the emotional truth I'm aiming for at the end of Donut Squad. Lord knows what that could even be. So it is completely opposite way around of working, and I think it's just what I needed, really. I think as someone who is a bit of a natural sort of planner, and I like my structure, it's quite fun to just freestyle it. That was a joyous discovery of lockdown for me. I was doing this. I set myself this make up a comic a panel a day challenge in 2020, and then it turned out that was the year we would all be locked in our houses by a global pandemic. And so I was just making up a comic completely on the hoof. And sort of that, since doing that, I think I've really learned to sort of just trust my instincts a bit more. And like, you don't necessarily need a plan. You can just make stuff up, and like, it will start to make some kind of sense as you go along. I've been doing this job for a while, and I trust myself a little bit more with it these days, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely helps. I think it is something that you get better at over time, particularly that kind of instinctive understanding of where you want to kind of push a story, even if you're not quite sure where you're going to end up, but you know the trajectory. And yeah,
exactly. You just like it becomes a bit more vibes based, a bit more. I feel like we need to go this way right now, and we'll see where we get to. And
I could spend a long time just going, oh, and there's that issue with the donuts, and then that one. But my favorite one so far, one because I still read the Phoenix with my son, because we both, it's just like a thing we do. And Donut Squad, when we get to it, we're always like, what's he going to do this time? It's going to be hilarious, but potentially slightly disturbing as well. Which is like the best combination. And you've got this character, I think it was Jammy Boy, which is like this jammy donut that just splats on people and causes a mess. And that was the character. And then I think he did this 2-page spread that followed the life of a person who kept expecting Jammy Boy to show up and just like ruin his homework and then ruin his shirt. And he never showed up. And you do this guy's entire life, and he gets married and has kids. And like his entire life, he's slightly distracted because he's waiting for this donut. I was just like, wow.
Yeah. The life story of a bit part character in a gag strip who the guy he's supposed to be the foil to never turns up, and he's just like, what is my life for now? What do I do? I can just leave. Yeah, that was very fun. I enjoyed that one. And that's the joy of the Phoenix. I'm not going to speak ill of any other particular comics, but I can't think of many comics that would let you do a strip like that. The Phoenix and Joe in particular are very much like, yeah, that's funny. Do that. They trust you to sort of get a bit weird sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that thing where it's like the best films for children as well, where they don't speak down to them at all. They just you have faith that the kids are going to understand it. They're going to know what's going on. You can get sophisticated and use complicated words, and you just trust that they're going to be brainy and figure it out.
Yeah, I saw some like the first review I saw of Donut Squad the other day, and it made a point of pointing out how many complicated words there are in the book, because it's a comic, and you can sort of, like, if I was writing a prose book for sort of 7-year-olds, probably I would be being pulled up a lot more on sentence structure and clarity, and not using long complicated words that is completely preposterous to expect a child to know. But I get away with it somehow because they're little round funny talking donuts, and like it's sort of still funny even if you don't understand it. I think just because they're funny looking. I'm trying not to analyze too much why it works, because then I might somehow break it. But it is amazing what you can get away with in comics that I think is harder in some other media, or certainly with some other publishers. Or I was talking to someone the other day who works in children's media and sort of writes for TV, writes for animation, and he was just saying and his kids read the Phoenix, and he reads it with them. And he was just like, it's just what you guys get away with. It's crazy. Like, you get to put all the jokes in, and then no one comes in and says, oh, yeah, we can't really do all these jokes, which is what happens in those other sort of media. All the funny stuff gets stripped away by, committee, and they're just, because comics has always been such a small pond in recent, years in this country. And so there just hasn't been those committees, sort of those gatekeepers. We just have a small team of, it sounds like I'm sucking up, but very talented and funny people who edit the comic and sort of let us do things if they're going to be funny and cool.
Need to have as much success as possible without having so much that people start paying too much attention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm slightly worried. Suddenly, people are noticing Donut Squad. I might start getting told off for things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the Daily Mail will get hold of it and like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Oh, God forbid. Yeah.
How has the launch gone? This has been the big release of the book.
Yeah, it's been crazy so far. It's just the support it's had from booksellers and sort of within the industry, and it's bit. I've never experienced anything like it in my career, and it's delightful. And my initial response was to feel sort of mad and aggrieved on behalf of Alex and Freddie, honestly. Like my opus that I'd been working on for 10 years that I didn't really cared passionately about didn't have this kind of support. But it's been weird and exciting, and I'm just enjoying it at the moment. Yeah, it's cool.
Amazing. I love that your silly donuts taking the limelight away from Freddie. He'd be really annoyed about that.
He'd be so mad about it.
Excellent. Something that I was thinking about with your work and everyone else who works on the Phoenix, like there's comics from when I was a kid that I still remember and still resonate with me, and like the one that I tend to go back to, and you referenced it earlier with the comics that were basically designed as toys, and I was very much a fan of the Transformers comics, particularly Simon Furman work on it back in the 80s, which I felt kind of at a certain point it sort of transcended selling toys and went off into this mad cosmic sci-fi adventure thing. And the thing is, I still remember it now. I just spent a stupid amount of money on a Kickstarter to get a big collection of
me
them
too,
all.
Yeah. You went for it then?
Yeah,
did you go for the one where it was like all the US stories separately and all the UK stories separately, or the one that was like them merged together? Because
I went for the interweaved UK and US.
Yeah. I went for that because that's probably the closest reading experience to what it was like reading the comic, right? Because you'd get the American stories reprinted for a few weeks and then they'd have run out, so they'd quickly get Simon Furman to write something much better for a few weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting example of like a mad publishing scenario resulting in some really interesting creative results.
Yeah, absolutely. For anyone who doesn't know, so it was a British weekly comic reprinting an American monthly comic, and so they ran out of material sort of quite quickly and had to commission UK creators to sort of fill in the gaps in between. And they were quite different in style to the American stories, I'd say, and the artwork was quite different. It was very nice, but it was probably the first point in my life I noticed comics artists. You know what I mean? Because it was the swerve from Herb Trimpe, who did like the first few issues of the US stuff, to John Ridgway, like photorealist, sort of beautiful, classical sort of British comics artist. It was such a sort of jarring swerve that I was like, oh, different people made, and I started paying attention to the names, and started to conceive that's someone's job, that's which paid long-term dividends for me.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting, actually, because I think I couldn't tell you who was right. Like, I was reading some Spider-Man comics and Batman comics at the time, and I couldn't tell you who wrote those. Whereas Simon Furman, the Transformers UK writer, like completely lodged in my brain, and
completely,
quite a formative thing for me.
Yeah, me too, completely. And again, that's sort of noticing the writers' names, because they did feel so different. His stories from the American one felt maybe more explicitly. Maybe it had more of a committee sort of looking over their shoulder. Maybe it felt more explicitly like a extended toy advert. Lots of big panels of characters standing there and all saying their names and what they turn into. Introducing a whole new set of toys every few weeks. And Simon Furman got sort of play between, so maybe he had a bit more freedom, sort of play between dance between the raindrops a bit, and sort of tell actual stories about characters, and not just have to introduce, now we've got a bunch that turn into laser guns, or now these ones shoot fire out their heads, which, like, it's quite it's a challenging sort of commission, isn't it, to tell stories while also having to introduce like 20 new characters every month because we've got some new toys we need to sell. Like this.
It makes sense of that when it's an inherently nonsensical concept as well.
Yeah. Oh God, I did love it though. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the comic that changed the course of my life in hindsight. You know what I mean? Like, I'd read comics before, like I read the Beano, and I would draw my own comics, but I think it was Transformers that made me go, that's all I want to do. I just want to do that. That looks so cool. The excitement of a new issue of like when Target 2020, was it Target 2020, Target 2026? What was it called? Target 2006.
2006, yes.
So it was 20 years in the future. That's nuts. We might be old. But yeah, like the new issues of Target 2006 coming out is probably as excited as I've ever been in my lifetime. It was such a great story, and it shows, I think, the impact these things can make. The stories you love as a kid are sort of the stories that will stay with you for your whole life, and I think everyone knows that with regards to classic children's literature, and sort of appreciate that. And I think maybe the sort of comics were always seen as a bit disposable or ephemeral or sort of slightly trashy, and we maybe don't appreciate the extent to which the works of, for example, Simon Furman, can imprint on you and stay with you your entire life and sort of give you a moral framework. It sounds ridiculous, but Optimus Prime was my hero, and I didn't go to church much after a certain age, but I took Optimus Prime very seriously.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing that I find amazing is that, where are we? 30 years later, we're still talking about these things. And obviously, without particularly the UK run, I'm not sure Transformers as a franchise would have continued in quite the same way. I feel like that's the thing that really put people in. But aside from that, I have shown my son some of those 1980s comics. He's really into that stuff as well, and is intrigued by the whole thing. He's very much a kind of G1, dismisses the Michael Bay stuff, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, my son got really into it because I had a couple lying around, I don't know, and I saw a cheap collection, and he got really into Transformers as a kid, and those ones specifically. But he has forced me to watch all the Michael Bay movies because he was curious about them, and we sat and watched them all, and it was one of the grimmest and most dispiriting experiences of my life. But we made it fun for ourselves. We made we sort of drew a chart, and we rated each one on a sort of across a range of criteria, like intentional comedy, unintentional comedy, casual offensiveness, use of slow-mo, explosions, and actual quality. And actual quality, it was all very low scores. But some of the other ones, have you seen these films, Simon?
I've seen. I think I watched the first 3 Michael Bay ones, and then after the third one, I couldn't handle it anymore.
The second one is about as bleak as I've felt watching a film. It's like, oh God, I said I'd watch these with him, and there's still 6 to go, and this is the worst thing I've ever sat through. But I don't know, they get progressively more and more demented to the point where they're sort of interesting towards the end because they're just so off the wall. Still loathsome in many ways, but it becomes so just unhinged that it becomes sort of an entertaining spectacle in itself.
Yeah, no, I think the more recent ones that he's not directed, I've liked a lot more. And
Bumblebee was great.
Bumblebee was really
genuinely really fun film.
Yeah, and Transformers 1, I was actually very impressed with. That's
oh yeah. I haven't seen that one. I think he's.
Had you not?
He's sort of aged out of it a bit, or I'm not being forced to watch Transformers things as much as I was at one point. And after sitting through the entire Michael Bay oeuvre, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Made him grow up fast.
Yeah, he learned a lot that he maybe shouldn't have learned.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to round off our chat, and I'll let you get back to your evening, with that idea that, I'm still talking about Transformers comics today, and they influenced a particular type of storytelling that I still love, and I've shown them to my son, and that kind of carries on. And with Mega Robo Bros and Donut Squad, you've now made stuff that 20, 30 years from now, I can imagine my son showing potentially, if he has kids, to his kids.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
What does that look
like? I mean, it feels really weird to think about. I have already sort of been doing this job long enough that I met someone the other day. We were doing a sort of Donut Squad signing, and we went for a bookshop in central London, and one of the booksellers, my publicist guy I was with, introduced me. It's like, this is Neill, he does Donut Squad. And she goes, oh, I know, and Mega Robo Bros, and Pirates of Pangaea, and Townsend in the Deep. I was like, okay. It's like, I came and saw an event. I came to an event you did when I was 12 years old. I was like, okay, yeah, I've been doing this a while. Already, some people have grown up with these stories, which is weird. But I mean, it's always been on not very many people. I don't think it's quite a select club, haven't broken out to Transformers levels of cultural impact yet.
Haven't caught Michael Bay's eye yet.
No. Oh God, can you imagine? Oh, Michael Bay's Mega Robo Bros. That's going to haunt my nightmares.
I know. Although I am slightly annoyed that there isn't an animated Mega Robo Bros series. That just seems like an obvious thing to do.
To me, I can't really say much about that. There are lots of factors, and they're not within my control. Yeah.
But yeah,
it would be cool. I would love that. If it was done, right, and I would watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Well, I'll let you get back to your evening, but yeah, I mean, any parents watching, get the Phoenix if you're in the UK, and if you're not, then try and get it somehow. And
the books are much more widely available, in lots of different territories. So that's a place to start before trying to figure out international subscription rates.
Brilliant.
Which is a bit more challenging.
And the great thing with Mega Robo Bros is that it all exists now, so you can get five books.
8 books.
8 books. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, you can get the whole thing and read it from start to finish. And I would say also, like,
8 books.
There we go. Nice. Look at
that. There's 8 books. Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can probably talk to this more than me, but like, I would say that although this is aimed at younger readers, I enjoyed it as much as my son did. I think it just works as a great story.
I think definitely there's a lot of stuff in there that is like about parenting, and that parents can enjoy and sort of see from a different angle to kids reading it. So, and there is stuff in there that I think kids will maybe, hopefully, sort of read on one level or read in one way, and then potentially, if they come back to it a few years later, they might see in quite a different way. That's one of the sort of fun things about writing for that kind of age range. I think you're never talking down to them, but also you are conscious that there's sort of straightforward ways of engaging with the text, and then there are sort of deeper or more complex ways of engaging with the text, and it's fine to sort of switch to start in one mode and then maybe grow into another. I would say
do it all. Amazing. Well, yeah, I encourage everyone to go and check out Neill's work, and you've got a Substack as well, so they can head over there to find out more about.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, if you like robots or donuts, I mean, it's an unusual combination.
But it's one of those things, right? Surely.
Yeah. The Venn diagram, that includes almost everyone, right?
That's a circle, yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, thanks, Neill. And
not at all. Lovely to talk to you.
Excellent. Speak again soon.
Good luck sticking the landing and saying goodbye to your little universe you're living in.
I know. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. Maybe we'll talk again after I've done that, and either be happy or you can
we'll have little serial writers who have finished their big ongoing serial support group. It'll be fine. We'll get through this. Yeah.
Excellent. All right then. Right, thanks everyone for watching.
Cheers. Bye.